The dusky summer night in California. This is Mike D at Down Peppertree Lane. Please like and subscribe my videos. Let's jump right in to Rudolph Valentino, a star of the silent movie era in Hollywood and became a legend, probably the first legend in Hollywood by dying young. So Rudolph Valentino was born in Italy. He grew up with kind of a charmed life. He had very good looks and things came easily to him. He was popular and enjoyed his youth. But he was a bit of a dreamer and had made foolish decisions throughout his life. And ran off to Paris, and that did not work. And he had to come home to Italy, and then he decided to board a ship to America, try his luck in the United States around 1914. And the movie industry was just starting. It was all silent films at this time. And he landed in New York and was just started at the bottom. He had a lot of charm. So he worked in a restaurants, and people liked him and thought he was great company to be around, but maybe not a great worker at restaurants. So he got fired, but he was homeless for a while on the streets, just shuffling around. But he did have a skill for dancing, and he knew the tango, and started working in dance halls and became a taxi dancer and maybe a soft gigolo. It's not quite clear. We'll never know. But he definitely spent time with rich ladies, taught them the tango. He escorted them as companions. They let him drive fancy cars, apparently. And he was great company. A charming young Italian man. And he got himself in some trouble with a murder trial with some rich people, and he had to get out of Dodge. And he took a train to Utah to be in a theater company, and that kind of fell apart. But he made his way west to Hollywood and just started as a bit player in the theaters, in the movies, excuse me, just living in a hotel. And like I said, he was a dreamer and wanted big things for his life. And I did sit down, and on Amazon Prime, there is an early movie of his called A Married Virgin or something ridiculous from 1918. And the only reason to watch the movie is Rudolph Valentino. He is mesmerizing. You cannot take your eyes off of him. He just had that star power, that it factor. But he played a villain. He kind of played the bad guy originally in movies. It's also good to watch silent movies because the expressions on the actor's face are so fantastic. They really convey the story with their expressions. And a lot of his early films are lost. They were not preserved. So he did lose a good chunk of them. But he worked his way up slowly, and women responded to him very well. He had a foolish early marriage. He was very impetuous. He would just make kind of silly decisions. And he was a big spender. He would kind of foolishly blow his money, that sort of thing. It just, he was leading an artistic life, a dreamer. And he may or may not have had gay romances. It's not clear. That's also just kind of mysterious with him. He got the marriage annulled and tried to marry someone else and was thrown in jail for bigamy. And there was a trial. And he finally had a big movie with the Sheik in 1921. And that was filmed out here in Oxnard, California, just near Ventura, Malibu. And there is a little house on the beach that says Casa Valentino. where they filmed The Sheik. You can find that at Channel Islands Harbor if you dig around. Very modest bungalow, but I have been there. So I enjoyed this early black and white silent movie, and that's a great part of Hollywood history to watch those. But he definitely has charisma in this early movie. And after 1921, he's a pretty big star. He gets involved with this fashion designer and or costume designer, and they start making real creative, artsy movies that don't do as well. They're kind of like going rogue outside the Hollywood system, and they're into the occult, into spiritualism, and talking to the dead, and all of that. They really go off on a tangent, and once again, living an artist's life. But he does have some big hit films along the way. In 1922 and 1924, he is able to maintain his audience as a charming lover in these films, and he starts playing more the hero at this point, not really the villain. The audiences are rooting for him. And eventually, he's a pretty big star by 1925, and he builds this incredible villa up in the Hollywood Hills called Falcon's Lair. And you could look at pictures online. It's one of the legendary houses of Hollywood. It's very mysterious with lots of trees and shadows. And he loved horses, and he would gallop in his horses, Arabian horses, around up and down the hills. And he was leading the charming life. He dressed really finely in gentleman's clothing, and he threw grand parties. And this is in 1925. Mind you, he only had 1 year to live. It just shows you the just how quickly life can slip through your hands. It's a very, it's you never know with life what's going to happen. But in 1925, he was riding on top of the hills with the grandest house in Hollywood, Falcon's Lair. And later on, it was bought by the multi-millionaire Doris Duke, one of the richest women in the world. And you can check out that story if you're interested. So by 1926, his films are doing really well again. He releases The Son of the Sheik, and he has, a massive audience, and they all love him. And he's starting to get hassled about being too effeminate, and the press and reporters are calling him effeminate. And he even gets into a boxing match with one of them to kind of prove that he is masculine. And that was just his persona as the charming Latin lover who was a lover, not a fighter, really. But he did win the boxing match. And he had a lot of character and style and grace and charm, and was a classy guy, but once again made foolish decisions, especially around money, and had a lot of debts and things. But he lived large. He lived life to the fullest. And by August, he had, even though he was beautiful on the outside, his insides were troubled. He had ulcers and appendicitis, probably from all of the stress of the movie industry, I would think. And he doubled over in pain, and this was in New York, and he was in the hospital for about 7 days, and he got a little bit better, but then he got ill. And all my solar lights are coming on. Aren't they beautiful? Um, and then he did pass away in late summer of 1926. And the funeral was massive. It was an open casket. There's one picture of him that's really eerie. It's a famous picture. He almost looks kind of ghostly. Beep, beep. And you can look that picture up online. But he looks a little different in every picture. Sometimes when he's smiling, he has a lighter side, and then he has a dark, moody, mystical side. And he was into the occult, like I said. So his hair was always slicked back. He just had a classic look. So if you check out the pictures of him, you'll be quite intrigued by Rudolph Valentino. There's a great song that features Rudolph Valentino by America. You might want to check that one out. And called Right Before Your Eyes. And, or it's called Rudolph Valentino, either way. But his films were re-released by his family, and they did have to sell his house at public auction to pay off some debts. But the classics ones are Blood and Sand, if you can find that, The Sheik, or Son of the Sheik. Um, and he left behind maybe 12 films, and a lot of the rest have been lost to time. So Rudolph Valentino, the first legend of Hollywood, and I'm Mike D at downpeppertreelane.com. Please check out my work and support my vintage shop there, and like and subscribe. Thank you.